Welcome, this is Andrew Worcester, and this is a movie review. Today's movie is called The Vast of Night, which is a science fiction movie on Amazon Prime right now through Amazon Studios, just released on there the end of May. It's starring Sienna McCormick, Jake Horowitz, and written, directed, edited, produced by the first-time filmmaker Andrew Patterson. And it's a story about a radio DJ and a switchboard operator in the late 1950s as they discover a weird sound wave through the radio waves. And they're not quite sure what the communication is, whether it's Soviets, whether it's what, they have no idea. But it's strange enough and interesting enough that it leads them through the process of discovering what that is. And it is told in a very interesting way that's very unique. It's a different kind of story. It reminds you a little bit of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, any kind of 50s or 60s science fiction movie. It's not the big spectacle movie that you might kind of understand, like Interstellar, when you think of science fiction movies. It's not that at all. It's more of a suspense science fiction movie, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of the better movies I've seen this year. I wish it has so much more publicity. I wish more people knew about it. That's why I'm kind of doing this review, to kind of get the word out there so people can understand that this is really a movie you have to check out. It's just so, it's a little bit slow, and I guess that might be some of the deterrent of it. The pace of it in the beginning is slow, but it kind of seeps you into the world of the lazy, sleepy 50s in a small town, which is where outside of the glitz and glamour and the lights of a city, where things can kind of sneak in the back door and be a little bit unobserved. And that's really what how the story gets its suspense from, is because of people not paying attention to it. And the beginning of it shows them all in a basketball game. So the whole town, in this small town, is all in Texas, is all at this high school basketball game, and even the neighboring town is all there. So the people that are out and about in the city are a handful at most. It's mostly the switchboard operator, who's a 16-year-old girl, and this radio DJ who's probably in his early 20s. And it shows you their relationship at the beginning at the basketball game as they're kind of setting things up before they go to their job. And then from there, it's them uncovering this radio frequency and them going on the path to discover what it is. And it's both suspenseful, it's both intriguing, and it's one of those stories that when you see it, I love these kind of movies in general, but at the ending, and you see how it ends, I don't want to give any away, there's no spoilers here, but it's something that the next part of the story would also be fascinating to hear about. And it's something that in the movie world and in science fiction world, you don't really see too much of the next step. And you do see stories like this. It's not told in quite the same way in being a 50s movie, being a small town. It's not something that we've seen over the last 20 years or so. The closest comparison is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So if you were a fan of that, if you're a fan of old kind of TV serial science fiction shows that you can watch back from the 50s and the 60s, it's kind of like the beginning of the whole UFO conspiracies. This is kind of living in the world right before those really became a thing. So even when they first discover the frequency, they don't believe that part of it, because it doesn't seem, that's not even in the psychology of them yet, because it hasn't really become anywhere near mainstream or recognize that that's a possibility. So as they're discovering different pieces of it, and that becomes more and more the likely scenario, there's still pushback up to, throughout the whole movie, because they're thinking it's other things. They're trying to explain it away. And you also see great character development, especially with Sienna McCormick plays the 16-year-old girl, and her name's Faye in the movie, and her character arc is fantastic, because she starts out as really shy, kind of nerdy, smart girl that doesn't have the confidence that she needs to really succeed where she wants to. But you kind of understand that because she's 16, and her curiosity kind of gravitates her to the older Jake Horowitz, who plays the radio DJ. and he's a nice, friendly, charismatic kind of kid who respects her and wants to teach her, wants to show her things. And he's kind of very helpful in that regard throughout the whole beginning of the movie, which is setting up kind of his personality, I guess. Besides his expertise or his interests, it's more of his personality, how he's regarded in this small town. But her going from that place up into really taking control and handling things, and it's everything happens in the span of like 3 hours time, because it starts where they have the basketball game, and then it ends as everyone's leaving the basketball game. So as much as you live almost, it's like an hour and a half movie or so. So it's like for every 1 minute in real life, it's 3 minutes on video time. So it goes by, even though it's at parts it's slow. In the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it does have some slow moments as it's building into the story. But even in those slow moments where you don't think a whole lot is happening, the dialogue and the performance by the actors, the two actors, I can't say enough of. I can't wait to see what else they do, and I hope they get a lot of opportunity, because they deserve it. Their back and forth was fantastic. And also, I found, as far as the filmmaking goes, the way they chose to shoot some things to save money, because you can't imagine it has a huge budget with two actors that you don't really know of it yet, and there's a first-time filmmaker is giving a chance here. But they were creative in how they filmed some things, especially with a really dialogue-heavy beginning part of filming things in a way that you could totally get away with and understand and appreciate, but doing it in a way that would be much less expensive if they tried to light things differently, or if they tried to make a sound. Like, their choices were really fascinating to maximize the budget, especially in the first 40 minutes or so of the movie, and even throughout. They made choices that you could kind of tell if you're really paying attention, but they weren't so overt that took you away from it. Almost like you appreciated the uniqueness of how it was done, even if you did when I did realize, well, that's different. It didn't take me back, and it wasn't a slight against it. It was almost like another feather in the cap of the movie, because like that's a really interesting way of doing that. But I also see how it could save you some money as well. But in saving money, it became a much more interesting choice for how the movie was presented to you, and a unique choice of how the movie was presented to you. So it's called The Vast of Night. Came the end of May on Amazon Prime. It's available now for you to watch. I definitely recommend checking it out. You won't be disappointed. If you like, any kind of science fiction movie that has more of a suspense nature to it instead of a spectacle nature to it. Especially, the best comparison I have is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So if you enjoyed that film, definitely check this out. You won't be disappointed. And I really hope to see more things from this director, but also from these two actors, who I thought were really, really fantastic and really carried the movie when it was 85% of just them two. And they if they didn't work, if their kind of rapport or their chemistry or their charisma back and forth didn't work, the whole movie doesn't work. And I think a large part because of that excelling, that made the movie really a recommendation for everybody. So I appreciate you sticking around for 8 minutes and change here. My name's Andrew Worcester. We will see you again for another movie review soon. Take care.